Hi, this is Rich Chycki, and you're listening to Two Guys Talking Rush.
Two guys talking rush. Two guys talking rush. Two guys talking rush. Two guys talking rush. Two guys.
And now, get ready for the Two Guys Talking Rush podcast with your hosts, John Kane and Dan Buxman.
Hey folks, my name's John Kane and this is the delightful Dan Buxman, and welcome to episode 29 of the Two Guys Talking Rush podcast. Oh, yeah. This is not Two Guys Talking DeBarge.
No,
it's not. It's two guys talking the incredibly iconic Rush. So listen in, folks, and discover the best damn Rush podcast in the entire Solar Federation. Two Guys Talking Rush. Dan! What's
buddy? Happening?
Oh, shit, I didn't record. I'm kidding, Dan. I'm kidding.
Now. Now, DeBarge, that's a reference I've not heard in a long time. I always wanted to see them open for Celtic Frost. I would have really liked to have seen that show. Didn't happen.
That would have been incredible.
Yeah, that would have been something. Yeah.
What a contrast, man. Anyway, Dan, episode about what? Your love of DeBarge? I don't blame you. They're incredible.
My love of them being on bills that they would never be on.
However, I think, here we are on Two Guys Talking Rush, talking about DeBarge.
Yeah.
This is exactly what you guys downloaded this podcast for, right?
Exactly.
But no, I think they carved their niche, and they I believe they had some hits. I'm not a DeBarge expert, but
was it "Let's Hear It for the Boy"?
Yes,
yeah.
Let's hear it for the boy. Woo! There was always that. Woo! Anyway, nothing like
losing listeners by the second.
Was Geddy on that one of those albums?
I don't know that he wasn't. We can't prove he wasn't.
Exactly. Anyway, no. If there are any DeBarge fans listening, I'm not going to go on this tangent anymore.
Yeah.
Continue listening because we will stop eventually talking about DeBarge. Anyway, this podcast is number 29, and I say that every time we have an episode that I call it a milestone, and I only say it because it's true. I mean, we're doing this by sort of fishing line and gum and keeping it all together for the loyal fans. Extremely
low budget podcasts by two otherwise employed middle-aged dudes often don't last very long.
I know. They don't. Yeah. You're right.
So, I mean, every episode, in my opinion, is a victory that we made it as far as we did.
It's one little victory. It's one little victory.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, I guess we could do that all day with as many words and lyrics that are involved in Rush songs.
Yes.
We could make goofy little puns all day.
Many puns.
Anyway, folks, remember this show is hosted by fans for fans, and our listeners know we are inclusive. Each week, we try to mix it up with guests and content, and we want fans to join in on this magnificent journey. The fact that this show is held on by fishing wire and gum is only because it's true, but it is growing into somewhat of a little nugget. I mean, I think people are starting to recognize the show, and so with the golden nugget, you polish it and you refine it and make it more into a nugget, a better nugget. I'm talking about nuggets right now, Dan.
Nuggets, baby. Exactly. No, we had a guest not long ago who was talking about how he enjoyed listening to the show because you and I have some like repartee that he finds amusing.
Yeah.
So there's at least one person out there who's listened to us enough to notice how we function.
They get our shtick.
They get our shtick.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is, I think. But and for those who get our shtick, thank you. Before I forget, I want to thank our guest on episode 28, Mr. Chris O'Connor, a returning guest, In the past, we've mentioned a committee that's tasked with producing a Neil Peart memorial in the late drummer's hometown of Port Dalhousie, which raised a bunch of money and still needs help. The task force chair, Dave DiRocco, and task force member Chris O'Connor were on previous shows, in particular our Thanksgiving episode, holiday special, whatever you want to call it. Chris came on in this past show and gave us some updates since then, and he's a great guy. And any way we can help that memorial become realized, that's what the show's all about. We asked him in particular, what were some of the guidelines? Do you have to be from only from Canada? Can you be a citizen of the US? He really couldn't answer that, but I think there was some, they were still working that stuff out. What sort of criteria is involved, and expectations. Only artists, professional artists and architects and whomever allowed to submit ideas. So he didn't really know. I guess those guidelines are being refined as they go along.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. But I would love to see a wonderfully designed, nothing worse than a bad or poorly designed memorial, man. I could think of a few. And like, you look and you're like, what were they thinking? Hopefully this is done tastefully.
What you really don't want is the memorial goes up.
Yeah.
There's that awful pause of silence. And then someone turns around and goes, well, that was a very nice thought. You do not want that. Absolutely.
Or like a big mistake, and they put like a statue up of like Ginger Baker, like the wrong drummer.
Or Ringo. Welcome, Ringo.
That would be
that would be bad. That would be bad.
That would be terrible. However, I don't think that's going to happen, and
I don't see that happening.
What a stupid joke I just made, Dan. That's stupid. No, hey, listen, comedy. That's the only way the only thing that keeps me going.
It's fishing line, chewing gum, bad jokes. That's what keeps this whole thing going.
I like that. That could be a concept album or something. Yeah, right. Well, anyway, Chris O'Connor, thank you. Again, for folks who are listening, you can go on to the Two Guys Talking Rush website to find out what's happening. Rush is a band, and others like that, to find out what's happening with this particular effort. It's all over Rush News. In September of 2020, Rush Fest, the annual Scottish Rush Festival, launched a charity Rush tribute album, Tribute Songs for Neil, Volume 1. All profits from that album went to Cancer Support Scotland, UK, and Glioblastoma Foundation, Neil Peart Research Award, USA. Please support Steve Brown, who organized this effort. Steve was on the show. He's a great guy. You can go to www.rushfestscotland.co.uk. Here at Two Guys Talking Rush, we are fans of the talented crews who make up the live event and touring industry. You'll notice when listening to our episodes or looking at what to download for our episodes, we often have production people on the show who've done an amazing job. Again, speaking of polishing the nugget, polishing the people who are on stage creating the music to make them look better and sound better and all those things. So please support the Sweet Relief Musicians Fund at sweetrelief.org. A small donation will help thousands of music industry people who've been affected by COVID-19. I see weekly live event venues just going down, several in the Boston area that I know, and everywhere, so hopefully.
It's with the vaccine and all that sort of thing. I was sort of hoping like, well, maybe the ones that are still standing can kind of hang in there until things go back to normal, but it's still really dire for these guys.
Yeah.
And I definitely like that we want to help them, and we want to do what we can to, even just make people aware that, like, yes, there are people back there when you go see a show who you don't necessarily see, but you sure would miss them if they were not there.
That's so true. I know. So yeah, folks, sweetrelief.org, and support the live event music industry while it's in crisis. Show plugs. Well, as a reminder, you can hear our podcast on TuneIn, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, Simplecast, and others. This show is recorded in video, so you can please check out our YouTube channel, and please click subscribe. So, for example, not everybody wants to watch a podcast. However, we did have Craig Rennick on, and he showed pictures. So there are times where the YouTube videos come in handy, and again, you can just watch Dan and I blabber on about things. like Rush, of course,
and other Rush,
and all Rush,
Yeah.
nothing but Rush. Yes,
Exactly.
I gotta make a what do they call those? A charger or something in radio? There's those pre-recorded
Right,
now. Yeah, I should make up a series. We should come up with some ideas for that. I think that would be
Donna would know.
Yes.
Donna would know what we call that.
Donna, where are you? Maybe
We
she'll
cry
pop
out
on.
for Donna. Yeah.
Donna. Oh, did you like Richie Valens?
I loved Richie Valens.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now he's dead, and but I love him just the same.
No, he's dead. He's been dead for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah. The day the rock died, right?
Yes,
The
exactly.
day the music died.
We almost lost Waylon Jennings that day too. He gave up his spot on the
that's
plane
right.
to, I believe, to Buddy Holly.
Yeah, that's an incredibly sad story, man. Jeez.
Yeah.
Nothing like bringing everybody down, huh?
We could talk about other fatal plane crashes that killed other, early rock stars.
Well, thinking of that, the Lynyrd Skynyrd plane, like
Yep.
one of the dudes got up and walked out. What was the guy's name?
Artemis Pyle.
Yeah, and he just like walked through the lagoon, the swamp, and found help. And like, imagine living through something like that. My God,
That's insane.
your life is never.
Get my head around. No, I can't get it. I can't even get my head around that.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm pretty sure it would make me not that eager to play again for a while, and certainly not that eager to step on a plane again.
Rock and roll myth and lore, man. It just keeps building as time goes on. It's an incredible story in rock and roll. Both instances. Anyway, a quick shout out to and again, yes, folks, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Sorry, we go off on tangents on the show, but that's our choice, right?
Yep.
Okay. Anyway, Rush, a quick Rush Radio shout out, rushradio.org. You can check out on your TuneIn app. Big thank you to Ed Stenger at rushasaband.com. We love his website. He has great news sources and just news feed in general. He works very hard at keeping that website up and running. And fortunately, we interviewed Ed a couple of weeks ago or last week, and he'll be on a future episode. Super nice guy, friend of the show. We love Rush as a band. And also Power Windows website, 2112.net, and others. Well, another quick shout out to Why Not? Their music can be heard in the show's intro. They're all over my Facebook feed for some reason. Yeah, I mean, they're really busy. They do a lot of social media activity. So big shout out to those guys. And Rush fans, we want to hear from you. If you have comments, suggestions, ideas, or questions about the show, please submit them. We'd like to hear from you. Email us at two guys talking rush @gmail.com. That's the word two, not the number two. We are always looking for super fans for our Rush super fan spotlight. What is a super fan? What makes you a super fan? Please email us and tell us why you think you should be on Two Guys Talking Rush to talk about your Rush superpower. Right? I don't know, whatever it is. Anyway, something exactly. You can check us out at twoguystalkingrush.com. Also our Facebook page, facebook.com/2guystalkingrush. Like us. Twitter.com/2guystalkrush. And again, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also find us and support our store. We have a wonderful little store on our website where you can buy a mug, T-shirt, a button, a sticker. I think I sold a mug last week, which I was really, that was really
Good.
nice. Whoever bought the mug,
Thank you.
let's come on the show. Let's show you mug.
Exactly.
Tell us why you bought the mug. They're nice mugs.
You could talk for an hour about your experience with the mug and all the things you did.
You could put your pens in it. Anyway,
that's right.
Yep. And Patreon. We have a Patreon account to support the podcast and our efforts and keeping it alive with good content, good guests, all that. It's www.patreon.com/TWO Guys Talking Rush, Two Guys Talking Rush. Anyway, fan mail. I love fan mail. We got a couple.
Nice.
Would you like me to read one?
Oh, please.
Okay, so this is from Adam. Adam says, big Rush fan and have watched just about every episode. Just curious to see if there are any plans to do crossover episodes with the guys from Something for Nothing. Not sure if you follow filmmaker Kevin Smith's podcast, which I actually do. Oddly enough, I like Kevin Smith, but he sometimes does crossover episodes where the first part is let's see, where the first part is on a guest's own podcast and the second part is segued on one of his podcasts. So he does these cross-pollination podcasts. Just throwing that out as an idea for consideration. Keep up the great job, guys. Adam, thank you. I don't know, man. I think Two Guys Talking Rush. I don't know. What do you think, Dan, about merging with another podcast?
I'm not against it. I certainly think it's fine. It would certainly be appropriate to have those guys on if they want to be on our podcast, of course.
Yeah.
That's the question. But I don't know. Honestly, my feeling is that we still are sort of building our identity.
Exactly.
And, but there's nothing wrong with the idea, and it's certainly something we could do in the future.
I think you're right. I think Two Guys Talking Rush we're still sort of new, still sort of kind of figuring out who we are, and
we must pay our dues.
We're little babies, and we're a couple of babies here at Two Guys Talking Rush.
No, but I mean, we've talked about this before, but it's like when you do something like this, you really have to pay your dues. There are a lot of people who've been at this for longer than we have.
Exactly.
And I feel like just out of respect, we have to. This has to seem earned.
Right. It's like, what do we have to say? That needs to be established.
Yes, we are just Two Guys Talking Rush.
Yeah.
And, part of why I'm so happy with that name is because that's really all we are. So that's it. We have no other agenda here.
Yeah.
The guys from Something for Nothing are also Two Guys Talking Rush. Exactly. But again, they've been at it a lot longer than we have. And, if we get to a point where it's a little more, that we're a little bit more established, definitely I could see that happening.
Four Guys Talking Rush. Yes. Adam, so the answer is maybe after our 100th episode, we'll consider it and join forces.
The answer is maybe.
A Hall of Justice with all the Rush superhero podcasts, superhero figures in there,
Would you say that we are choosing not to decide?
Back at the Hall of Justice. That's my best Ted Knight.
There you go.
Anyway. Yeah, well, and very well put. And Adam, there's your answer. Thanks for tuning in. Keep listening. Sorry, Adam. Adam, we want to call you and discuss this. Anyway, next email is, hi, John and Dan. Hello. Just want to say I've been binge listening / watching your Rush podcast, and I am now completely caught up. Wow, someone binged us.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
That's probably why I had a cramp in my leg last week. I'm like, someone's binging.
Someone's siphoning my energy.
I've truly enjoyed all the episodes. Well, thank you, sir. It has been something to look forward to during this pandemic. You guys have been great. I could see future guests in my crystal ball, like Liam Burt, Peggy Ciccone, and then Getty and Alex. Oh, please, that'd be incredible.
Nice.
Yep.
But
like I said, if Getty and Alex came on the show, I wouldn't even talk about Rush with them. I just want to talk to them what'd you do last night?
Wow. What kind of pencil do you use? Do you use a number 2 pencil? Wow.
Yeah, that's us digging deep because we know everything else. I
would be a moron on that show. I'd be absolutely unable to form a coherent sentence.
Honestly,
and the sentence I could get out, I could just see them being like, really?
Like, bleep.
That's the one? That's the one you're asking?
Be like, bleepity bloop.
Yeah.
We should have a show of Getty in fashion, because Getty is a fashionable dude. Mm-hmm. He wears cool t-shirts, awesome sneakers.
Mm-hmm.
He's always skinny jeans. I mean, the dude's he looks like he's 19. We could just go over the years of fashion with Getty, and
we could do secrets of eternal youth with Getty Lee.
Love it.
Yeah.
Getty, you're coming on. All right, continuing on with the email. I am learning a ton of stuff, especially the technical stuff. It's great. I've loved the recent episodes with Howard and Greg. I was born, raised, and still live in Niagara Falls, Ontario, Canada. I work at St. Catharines, where Neil is from. Well, Port Dalhousie, which is next door, as he says. So when Greg was talking about all that local stuff, that was cool for me. He mentioned Sam, the record man on Queen Street in Niagara Falls, which is where all my early Rush albums are from.
Wow.
It's cool. I don't want to ramble on too much, so I'll just give you a quick bio that us Rush fans understand. I'm 55 years old. I would say I discovered Rush when I was about 12. My friend that I grew up with had an older sister with tons of albums. We listened to All the World's a Stage a million times. I haven't stopped listening to Rush since then. My first show and first concert was the Moving Pictures tour at Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto. Wow. In 81. I was 15 and still remember the show, opening up with 2112. I have seen them about 39 times. I'm hoping when I get all my ticket stuff together that it will be 40. You always ask for Rush experiences after all these years. I really love my experience on the R40 tour. I decided I wanted to see the first show. This way, I'd be surprised by the set list. Well, one show became 3. I flew to Tulsa, Oklahoma on my own. I rented a car and saw the first 3 shows of the tour. Tulsa, Lincoln, St. Paul. I'll never forget it. I didn't want to leave the arena in Tulsa. Met a lot of great Rush fans along the way. RushCon was at the first show and held an informal gathering before the show. I saw them 3 more times on the tour, Buffalo and 2 in Toronto. Have looked on R40 DVD. That's me on Lakeside Park with the Canadian flag with the Roll the Bones shirt on. That's cool. So you actually made a DVD. That's awesome. Hopefully I didn't ramble on too much. I probably did. I wanted to get caught up on the podcast before I message you guys. Again, all the best to you and keep it going. And I look forward to the next podcast. I'm sure Rush fans truly appreciate what you're doing. Oh, and one last one. I love Test for Echo. That's probably a dig at me because
he's been listening. Definitely.
I know, definitely. Test for Echo again. I think it's famously no. I like the album. I just don't want to. It's probably my least favorite Rush album. I like a few songs.
You've never like trashed it.
No.
I've never heard you say anything like this is an unforgivable stain on their repertoire.
It's their theater of pain.
However many albums you put out, one of them has to be last. That's just how it is. One has to be first, and one has to be last. And that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that, there are a lot of really, really good ones.
Right.
And you got, and that's how the cookie crumbles. But yeah, I guess we're now like, famous as the, talking smack about Test for Echo show.
I guess we should just have an episode about it and get it over with, get it out there, really dissect it,
I don't know. We could sort of keep this going as like a way to needle, fans, who maybe want to like come on and do like an editorial reply.
Oh, there's somebody out. There's one rebuttal, Rush fan. There's some Rush fan out there with a room full of Test for Echo posters and a dart and like all everything Test for Echo and a Test for Echo shirt. And there's a dartboard with my face on it and your face on it.
Yeah, T4E.
Well, we want to talk about that guy.
No, the funny part though is that may be true. That's entirely possible.
It is. But we want to make that guy like us, and whoever that is, chime in. Let's have that conversation about why you love Test for Echo so much. We
like you. We like you. Come on the show.
Come on the show. Let's have it out. Anyway, this month in Rush history in 1966, the Yardbirds released the single "Shapes of Things," covered by Rush on Feedback. Woohoo! In 77, Rush played the Cumberland County Memorial Arena in Fayetteville, North Carolina, on the All the World's a Stage tour. In 78, they played the Colston Hall in Bristol, England, on the Farewell to Kings tour. In 78, they play Liverpool Empire in Liverpool, England on the Farewell. That must have been incredible to see Rush in England on the Farewell to Kings tour. Oh my Lord. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That must have been magical, man. Wow.
Were they with UFO on that tour?
I think so, man. I'm fairly certain. I could easily find that information out.
Yeah, I think that's the one in the documentary where UFO is just like mercilessly just ragging on them for like the bathrobe.
Glee. Hello, Glee.
Hello, Glee. Did you dine on any honeydew, Glee?
I love it.
They took it in stride, though. I admired that greatly. They were like, okay, so fine. We're about the music.
Yeah.
Says it all. Yeah.
The kimonos. In 78, they play, in 79, they play the Municipal Auditorium in Austin, Texas on the Hemispheres tour. In 81, 2112 was certified platinum by RIAA. In 81, they play the International Amphitheater, Chicago, Illinois on the Moving Pictures Tour. In 83, they play the Pan American Center in Las Cruces, New Mexico on the Signals Tour. Fabulous album. In 88, they play the Rosemont Horizon in Rosemont, Illinois on the Hold Your Fire Tour. In 90, they play the Lakefront Arena in New Orleans, Louisiana on the Presto Tour. And 90, they play the Summit in Houston, Texas on the Presto Tour. That was a great tour. I love that tour, the Presto Tour. In 92, they play the Civic Center in Pensacola, Florida on the Roll of Bones Tour. In 92, played the Memorial Coliseum in Jacksonville, Florida on the Roll of Bones Tour. Where's My Thing lost the best rock, also that year, Where's My Thing lost the best rock instrumental performance Grammy to Eric Johnson's Cliffs of Dover, which I think, I know, I mean, I like Where's My Thing more, but I for some reason I like played that album so much when it came out that what was it? Avia Musicom.
I always actually thought during that period that Alex was kind of like, his look at the time, it seemed to me like he was taking a little bit from Eric Johnson. I was like, am I imagining this, or is this just a coincidence, or is something conscious going on here? I don't know.
I think Eric Johnson's a fabulous guitarist. I mean, there's no, it's, and that's a great instrumental, and that was a killer album for him. I don't know what he's done since. I think he's done a lot more, but I haven't really followed him too much. But for some reason, though, that's strange, because now I remember, it's bringing back these memories that summer I spent a lot of time in Maine, and I was listening to that tape a lot. I would flip it over.
When 92?
In 1992 or 91, I was listening to that Eric Johnson tape over and over, along with Roll the Bones. I was listening to that. That was these records were in my constant rotation, right? Anyway, at that time. In 94, Rush played the Coliseum in Charlotte, North Carolina on the Carnap Hearts Tour. In 97, Rush received the esteemed Order of Canada, the highest civilian award from the Canadian government for significant achievement in important fields of human endeavor. Rightly so. In 2002, imagine a band got that. 2002, March. I wonder what Sabbath got. Did they get any awards?
Nothing.
Thank you for causing mayhem and fear.
Thank you for burning that church down.
The burning of the church award? No, I mean, Sabbath just, it's funny what bands get chosen, because, I mean, obviously Rush have contributed so much with their music and talents, but there are other bands that have made equal contributions in many ways. So I wonder what sort of awards they get. We should have that sort of show, like an awards, who got awards, what measure of accolades do certain bands get and where and why, right? That would be interesting.
For a lot of them, like, you have to wait for someone to die before they'll get an award. Black Sabbath, someone will have to die. That's what's going to happen. And it probably has to be Ozzy.
No, wait, Sabbath got a bench. Did they get a bench and
really?
Yeah, and burning it recently. They got some sort of recognition. Black Sabbath Park, and it's like a bench or something. That's a bridge.
Hilarious.
That is so, fucking
hilarious.
I know. I think so, man. I think so. I gotta say, I wish I saw that final. Of course, without Bill Ward, it truly wasn't in my view, it truly wasn't a Black Sabbath proper send off without Ward. At least part of it, However, that drummer is killer. You're of course you're a Sabbath fan. I know.
Yeah, I mean, I saw them on that tour, and I remember I was very mad about Bill Ward not being part of it. Then I saw the show, and it was like, I was not 100% convinced that Bill Ward could keep up that level of energy.
Yeah,
because you're a drummer. You know how demanding that is, and I don't know if you could do 300 nights a year.
Yeah.
And including the drum solo in the middle, so the other guys can go and lie down for a few minutes and that sort of thing.
I know.
Playing drums is kind of a young man's occupation.
But you know what they should have done with that in retrospect is you see it sometimes with bands, like there's two drummers.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't see why Ward couldn't have put up a kit and Ward could have played along.
Queen was like that. They had a guy like off, you could see him, like, so they weren't trying to pretend he wasn't there. But it was like, it was kind of a good thing too that they had the other guy there.
Allman Brothers had two drummers, the Grateful Dead,
right? Yeah.
I don't know. I love Bill Ward. I mean, he was
totally.
He contributed so much to Sabbath, and he's a really nice guy, and just a legend. And
I would love to know what a not signable contract looks like. That's the one unanswered question from the whole thing.
Yeah. I don't know.
We will never know.
We will never know. We don't have to worry about these things with the guys in Rush. They never really got into those squabbles.
Not a problem.
I know. It's what makes Rush so incredible. Anyway, moving on. In 2002, March of High Guard, written and performed by Alex Lifeson, was released on the Andromeda soundtrack. 2006, today's Slowpoke online comic strip featured an eggplant resembling Geddy Lee. Okay. In 2015, Dr. Krieger's Van mural is painted like Rush's debut album cover, but instead of Rush, it reads Van on today's episode of Archer. Ha ha! There you go. Well, some lots been going on in the Rush community with news, and I'll try to fly through some of this. But on February 12th, Rush's Moving Pictures celebrated its 40th anniversary. On over the past several years, Rush has released 40th anniversary editions of 2112, A Farewell to Kings, Hemispheres, and Permanent Waves. So it had been expected that they'd give Moving Pictures a similar treatment. However, based on a new banner ad being displayed on the Rush Backstage Club website, along with the lack of news about a potential release in the lead up to the anniversary, it's now looking like a bit less likely that the 40th anniversary box set will be coming anytime soon. Looking a bit less like this, it says. So the banner ad in question has a tagline reading, "Celebrate 40th anniversary of Moving Pictures, limited quantity, archive items and new Moving Pictures t-shirt now available," and is pushing older Moving Pictures merchandise, including the band's special 30th anniversary edition of the album.
Right.
So I guess there's some confusion about whether that's going to be released or not. Have you heard anything about that?
Not at all. And I've been looking.
Yeah.
My guess is something will come out.
Yeah.
My understanding is that the band is not like closely involved in Mercury label reissues.
Yeah.
Like that's kind of, I don't want to say like they're like hands off about it or whatever, but they've said in the past that's not really what they do.
Yeah.
Having said that, I cannot imagine a scenario wherein Moving Pictures is not commemorated in some way.
I know.
At least by Christmas.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's and it's also like it doesn't necessarily come out the day of the anniversary. Sometimes they come out a year late. Even.
Of course. Yeah.
So, I mean, maybe they're taking their time to do something fantastic.
Imagine that album is 40 years old.
I can't get my head around that. I can't get my head around that Signals will soon be 40 years old.
Oh my Lord.
Any of these albums, it's like, that's astonishing to me.
And
that we're still sitting here talking about them all these years later. Like, because they still give a shit.
Well, they also, if you listen to them, they sound as fresh and lively as anything that would ever get produced today. Nothing antiquated about any of those tunes or that
Not a
album
thing.
at all.
Not a thing.
Yep, from the content to the actual playing, it's incredible. It's sort of like I don't know, like a mini renaissance of music,
Yeah, I mean, I think like some of the 70s stuff was arguably dated for a little while, but it's now past that, and it's back to timeless again.
Yeah.
So but this happens. The further out we get from it, and the more we look back, and the more it becomes history.
Yeah.
The less you think about like, oh well, what else was going on in pop music at the time? That what bandwagon were they trying to ride or whatever?
Right.
Because they weren't, and we now know that. And the more time that passes, I think the more they'll be regarded like the way the Beatles are regarded, or something like that, where this is just fundamentally good music that was made for the right reasons by these people. And, that's, in a lot of ways, that's what you need to have is how is the product? Does the product hold up?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it just does, and it has. And so no matter how Moving Pictures is celebrated, it deserves an acknowledgement, kind of a cheers with
something.
I mean, with your favorite beverage, and you kind of hoist the old chalice and celebrate the music in some way. Anyway, interesting stuff. A couple of weeks ago, Andre Chilamondale hosted a new live interview with Alex Lifeson on the Make Weird Music YouTube channel.
Topics of the extensive interview included 25th anniversary of Lifeson's 1996 solo album Victor, the 40th anniversary of Rush's Moving Pictures album, his many side projects, future plans, and much, much more. You can watch that interview on YouTube. And that was a great interview. And Andre will be on a future show, which I'm really excited about. He's a cool dude. And during this, Alex also brought up that he's thinking of selling a good portion of his guitar collection to raise money for some charities he's involved with. I think we saw Gilmore do that recently, right? Did he sell off some of his stuff?
He sold one of them was a beauty that like I couldn't believe he was going to get rid of, but they have their reasons, so I'm not gonna question it. But I mean, my God, it went for like $2 million or something crazy like that.
Yeah, he's another underrated guitarist, man. David Gilmour, man. I'm a huge. Do you like Pink Floyd? I love Pink Floyd. I don't think I've ever asked you.
They're easily top 3 for me. And have been probably since I was 12.
It's funny. There's another band, in classic rock rotation. There's so many you just get sick of and hearing the same. I never get tired of hearing any of the Pink Floyd stuff. Even
the song "Wish You Were Here." I've maybe probably heard it enough.
Yeah.
But it's a great song. There's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
I mean, I think with a lot of these bands, the only culprit, if there is one at all, is just radio overplaying it. That's it.
I know. Too bad.
But the music itself, if you can sort of get out of that and not think about it that way, and just think of like, is this good?
Yeah.
Dark Side of the Moon, which everyone has heard.
Yeah, it's such a great album.
It's still effective.
Incredible.
It still works.
It's incredible. It's incredible. That album's incredible.
Oh, yeah.
So Alex says, what I'd like to do sometime in the near future is to sell my collection. I'd like to keep a handful of instruments, but I'd love to sell my collection for some charities that I'm involved with. I think that would be really great. A great way for these fabulous instruments that have been so sweet and dear to me to carry on and do something very powerful and positive for the world. That's something I've been exploring, in fact, in the last few days. Interesting. Overtime Angels, and those guys were on our early episode. Lance and I believe Lance Kasten, Michael Rosenthal were on our show. And Overtime Angels announced earlier this week that the Muskoka and St. Catharines Peart families will be hosting the first annual Peart Family Memorial Golf Tournament to benefit the RVH Cancer Center in September. And you can find out more info on Facebook. Ultimate Classic Rock posted an article where they ranked all of Rush's live albums, and we're going to do a show like this eventually, just a Rush live album show. Topping their list was 1998's Different Stages. And I believe Mr. Scoville, who was on our show, he assisted and or led that recording effort and talked about how difficult that was. That was if you haven't heard that episode, that's, Scoville's just a genius and a really nice guy, and Robert Scoville, and just listen to it. He'll talk about some of that in detail. Different Stages is a messy marvel, they say, both in source and in sound. The 3-disc set spans the Tesseract and Counterparts treks, along with the full London show from Farewell to King's era, and there's a fitting whiplash quality to the 202-minute affair as the band bounces from proggy instruments like Leave That Thing Alone to earnest balladry and Resist to one of Peart's requisite drum showcases, the Rhythm Method, which incorporates dated sample triggering. I love that stuff. Many of the 90s cuts are heavier on stage with licensed guitar crunch, drawing out extra muscle from Dreamline and Driven, and the sound quality expertly dances that fine line between polish and power, capturing the snap of each Peart tom, fill, and low-end grit of every Lee bass lick. Yeah, that it's one of my favorite Rush live albums. Different Stages.
I think Exit Stage Left is probably my favorite, but Different Stages is great. That might be like second or third for me.
Yeah.
And that was literally from the first time I heard it. I was like absolutely blown away by it. It's funny to me that when we talk to him, that there's like any struggle whatsoever to get those results, because you listen to it and it just sounds effortless. But no,
they're pros,
not
man.
Effortless.
Yeah, because they're just pros. When you're at that level, you do it well. And that shows with guys like Scoville and others, man.
I should hope so. I mean,
I know. Well, Rush, I'm sure the Rush camp, they're not hiring hacks.
No, they're not. No, they are
not. You know, like you're hired in because you do something really well. So
Yeah.
come on. Yeah. Because we do something really well. So on a related note, iHeartRadio.com's Carter Allen posted a list of top 25 indispensable live albums of classic rock. I know Carter Allen. He should come on the show. I gotta reach out to him. He was former Beast WBCN host. Really cool guy.
Okay.
Yeah. And anyway, he says that Rush's All the World Stage made the cut at number 24. It says, released in the heart of the 70s double live album craze, Rush's 76 offering had to be a 2-record set. No way that one album could have handled 15-minute 2112 and a similarly lengthy Working Man Finding My Way, then have any room left for some early catalog treats, a fiery in-concert bookend of Rush's earliest phase. Right on. You Discover Music posted an article titled Weighty in the 80s, When Prog Rock Went Pop, which discusses how various prog bands, including Rush, fared in the new wave MTV-driven musical climate of the 1980s. This is an interesting period.
Yeah.
Not because, you know, we're all familiar with Rush's material and what the outcomes of that were, but just music in general, 80s music, you know. I was listening to Alice, my daughter, we were listening to Gary Newman. And you know, God. I know. But it's like, so it's just broken down. It's simplified. It's like you know, it's art rock, right? And I don't know. Of course, we put
was it just yeah, it's Cars was what
yeah,
you
we listened to
right?
Cars, and but that, I think his first 2 albums were pretty instrumental in the this sort of era of digital music, man, the beginnings of digital music. Yeah.
Cars is funny though, because it's like, if you ever saw the video for it, it's like 8 guys just holding down one keyboard key.
I love it
for 4 minutes.
I'm fascinated by that. I don't know why I'm fascinated by it, but I'm fascinated by it. You know,
it worked. Yeah.
But just the 80s sound, right? Heavy keyboards, overly produced vocals, you know, really wappy drums. Yeah.
Like wappy?
You know, like snappy, wappy drums, you know.
Yeah, it's for me, like what I hear a lot of this, like it's really the drums that I find the most off-putting in most 80s music. I just don't like the production on them at all. It's like it doesn't sound like a musical instrument. It sounds like they're hitting something.
Like cellophane or something.
Right, and then there's an echo like a little later, and it's like, I don't remember the mindset that said this is good.
Yeah,
and this is what we want, you know. But I don't know.
Some catchy tunes, though. I mean,
sure.
I mean, I don't. It's definitely an era of like one-hit wonders. There's so many bands that just had one hit. That's a phenomenon unto itself, you know. I mean, that happens a lot in early rock and roll, but and even 70s. I guess that's a continuum.
Right up to today.
Yeah, right.
Probably more so now than ever.
Just one hit. Yeah.
Yeah. But well, I mean, a lot of like established groups, you know, that you and I listen to and that we love, really only had one hit. And to call them one-hit wonders, you know, is sort of to do them a disservice and not talk about how serious they were and, you know, and how musical they were. But, you know, like Free had one hit.
Right.
Their worst song, for sure.
Yeah.
And there was so much more to them than that.
I know.
Unfortunately, that's just, they're going to be all right now forever.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. Did you like Bad Company? I loved Bad Company.
Not as much as Free. Free is a little more, I mean, I love Bad Company. It's Paul Rogers, really.
Oh yeah.
But I like
great songs, man.
Totally. I like Free was a little more raw, and I just liked it a little better.
Yeah.
But I know they're not for everybody.
True. Well, anyway, going on, this article says, after years of sidelong science fiction themed suites, Rush had started slanting towards accessibility with Spirit of Radio. The steady rolling arena rock anthem made permanent waves, the Canucks' first real hit album in the US. Something was in the air, and by the following year, prog was making its peace with the new wave era in a major way. Rush didn't waste any time mounting the next attack. Moving Pictures arrived in February of 81, onboarding new wave influences. The synth riffs myths of Tom Sawyer, the ultimate ode to alienated teens, exist at the center of a Venn diagram with Rick Wakeman's Mini Moog licks at one end and Gary Newman's futuristic. Here we go. I didn't even go on to read that. And I popped it. And Gary Newman's futuristic Robopop hooks at the other, while Limelight wins the Grand Irony Award by fusing irresistible AOR guitar lines to a song about the downside of fame, ensuring Rush's radio Rush's radio ubiquity forevermore. Between them, the two singles not only cemented Rush's rock star status, they attracted a whole new audience that might have fled in terror from older Rush songs with titles like By Tor the Snow Dog. In September of '82, Rush delivered Signals, where Geddy Lee's synths challenged Alex Lifeson's guitar for the spotlight on tunes that fully assimilated the new wave influences hinted at on moving pictures. Especially overt is Rush's professed admiration of the Police's reggae rock hybrid, most audible on the percolating futurism of New World Man, the band's only US top 40 single ever. Interesting. However, what did Rush go on to do on these next two albums, next three albums, really owe itself to that 80s sound. I mean, especially Power Windows and Hold Your Fire.
They weren't afraid of it. That's the thing.
Yeah.
They weren't afraid to, like, okay, let's see what we can do with this. Let's step out. I think like hard rock bands were a lot more hostile to that kind of thing than Rush were. Rush were a lot more willing to be like, let's see, who knows? Let's see what happens.
Yep. Yeah, totally.
Ted Nugent, less so, I would say.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Not that welcoming of new wave, I find.
No, he didn't. He wasn't
not so much
influenced at all. Right.
Not a fan.
Maybe the outfits, but not the actual. Even so, he's wearing loincloths back then, wasn't he? In the '70s, he was. Not in the '80s. I don't think he was. Yeah. Anyway, podcast. This next article goes on to say podcasts have soared in popularity in recent years. Yes, they have, particularly during the past COVID year. Yes, they have. And whatever your range of interests may be, there's probably a podcast or 10 for it. For us Rush fans, this is on this is pulled from the Rush as a Band website. This is on their page because it mentioned our name, and I thought, wow,
oh cool,
I better mention it. And I just wanted to say thank you to Ed for writing this. But for us Rush fans, two podcasts in particular have come online over the last year or so that have done a really great job in finding and interviewing some really interesting guests that have some tie into Rush, including ex-roadies, authors, musicians, and more. The Something for Nothing podcast and Two Guys Talking Rush, aka 2GTR podcasts. I was a guest on Something for Nothing podcast this past summer, and also have been on the Two Guys Talking Rush podcast recently. Recent episodes of the Something for Nothing podcast have featured guests as Donald Halper, who's been on our show as well, and others. The Two Guys Talking Rush podcast has recently featured Rush FOH engineer Brad Maddox, filmmaker Ari Gold, Rush lighting director Howard Ungerleider, and photographer, writer, musician Greg Murray Rennick. Ed goes on to write, I'll be highlighting these and other Rush podcasts I come across on a more regular basis in my Friday Rush updates posts going forward. But in the meantime, take some time to catch up on these two great podcasts. Thank you, Ed. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Thank you, Ed. Yeah.
That's big news.
Yeah.
That's big news. Earlier this month, Drum Workshop hosted Drum Day LA, a free online event showcasing new products from DW, Gretsch, PDP, and Latin percussion, artist performances, and more. The live stream event also included a factory tour with Drum Workshop VP John Good. Earlier this week, or a couple of weeks ago, drumchannel.com posted a video excerpt from the live stream where John Good and Russ Kunkel, the immediate family, legendary session drummer, visit the Drum Workshop's John Good Gallery and reminisced on their experiences with the late Neil Peart. The 2-minute video is titled Remembering Neil Peart, and you can check that out on YouTube. In celebration of the 40th anniversary of Moving Pictures to honor the late Neil Peart, Consequence of Sound gathered 4 renowned drummers via Zoom to discuss the album and Peart's legacy. Taking part in the roundtable discussion were Mike Portnoy, Charlie Benante, Matt Halpern, and RJ Hale. And you can check this out on YouTube as well. Opening day for 2021 MLB. Are you a baseball fan, Dan?
I don't follow any sports at all.
You know?
No.
Even ping pong?
I like hockey fights and car accidents.
Oh,
yeah.
Cool. Opening day for 2021 MLB season is a month away, which means it's time for reader Ken K, aka the Klansman 2112, to kick off his annual Rush as a Band Fantasy Baseball League. It's a 20-team roto league with no entry fees or prizes. They just play for fun and bragging rights and have a lot of fun talking about baseball and Rush. Supposedly, there are still a few spots open, Dan. So you should get on this. You can email this individual, Elwood, I guess Ken K, at elwood2000@hotmail.com. And you can ask questions and join this fantasy baseball league if you want. And it's all Rush related. Isn't that fun?
Hey. Okay, yeah, sure.
And do you give a shit?
Get right on them.
Dan doesn't give a shit.
No,
Dan doesn't. Listen, there's some things you do give a shit about, and there's other things you don't give a shit about, Dan.
I don't follow sports, but kudos to those guys. I support what they're doing. Yeah,
of course.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Totally, man. Totally. Anyway, now we're at the point of the show we can actually introduce our guests. And sometimes I don't like sometimes in the show I'll drop little Easter eggs and kind of massage the listener into who our guest is going to be. But I didn't do that today. I didn't want to. I just chose not to do that.
That's very punk rock.
It was very fucking stealth, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm a podcast ninja. Anyway, as always, we have awesome guests, and it's always a big surprise. Anyway, our guest today is a gentleman by the name of Richard Chycki, and you might recall his name because he, of course, has been associated with Rush in some way. Richard Chycki, from his work with Dream Theater and Aerosmith to his 26 gold and platinum records, folks, with Rush. Richard Chycki is an indisputable veteran of the rock and roll scene, known to use over 40 mics on Neil Peart's massive drum array alone. The Toronto-based engineer mixer is no stranger to intricate musical production. He's a multi-platinum mixer and engineer whose clients also include such rock royalty as Dream Theater, Skillet, Mick Jagger, Alice Cooper, Pink, of course, Rush and Aerosmith, and many more. Known for his pioneering mix work in multi-channel audio, prog icons Rush entrusted Chycki to remix the multi-million selling 2112, their career pinnacle moving pictures, as well as A Farewell to Kings, Hemisphere Signals, Snakes and Arrows, Fly By Night, and all 5.1 surround. As well as mixing Tom Sawyer and Limelight in Dolby Atmos for Amazon's introduction into their HD streaming service. It was an interesting conversation we had with him about Atmos. Yeah, I wish I could afford it. Well, rock acts like Dream Theater, Skillet, Simple Plan, and Our Lady Peace have also tapped his surround mix talents. Other genres have caught word, most notably for DVD releases with P. Diddy, Tyrese, Shaggy, and Sean Paul. On working with engineer Richard Chycki, Rush's Alex Lifeson has said Rich is very settled in the way that he hears the band. He is such a great engineer. And the late Neil Peart added, I've never enjoyed the recording process so much, nor been so satisfied with the results as it relates to the work of the great pioneering Mr. Richard Chycki. Richard Chycki, welcome to Two Guys Talking Rush. Hey, Rich.
Hey, how are you?
How are you, man? We can't see you.
You can in a second.
Oh, wonderful.
There you go.
There you go.
are.
Okay, much better.
Richard, again, we've been talking through Facebook. I'm John Kane. This is my co-host, Daniel Buxman.
What's happening?
Hi, guys. How are you?
All right.
Good, how are you?
We're going to talk about some Rush. Who are those guys?
Well, I know exactly. Who's Rush? What do you know? We joke every week and we say this isn't two guys talking Ethel Merman or two guys talking Jim Neighbors or two guys talking Nickelback. It's two guys talking Rush. That's what it's all about. By the way, have you ever worked with Nickelback? They get a lot of slack, I think. No, never worked with them.
I have. It's just one of those bands that they're on the West Coast, and there's quite a collection of really great engineers out there. And they work with. I don't know if they did Bob Rock. I know they definitely did Randy Staub and all the West Coast guys. So it's something that's never came my way. Although I wouldn't mind. I I think they're fine.
They're pretty solid, and I didn't mean to throw a Nickelback curveball your way.
Oh no,
up the show. But I've been doing a little research on you, and I got to say, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah.
You're such an impressive. You've had such an impressive career, and congratulations on that. I think that's a wonderful.
Oh, thanks, man. Thanks very much.
Yeah, totally.
That very much. Thank you.
Totally. Well, I was watching some interview somewhere, and you were talking about your work with Aerosmith, and I'm a Boston guy. I grew up in Boston, and the
Great.
blue collar right outside of the skyline was always in my view, right outside of Boston, Somerville, and Aerosmith were always part of the conversation at parties, keg parties. They were the hometown boys. I love Aerosmith, early Aerosmith so much.
We went when we were recording a record. Steven said, "I want to go see a movie tonight," and he wanted to go see a movie. And Steven Tyler in Boston going to a movie theater, and it's just
how'd that work out?
It was explosive. You know what I mean? Everywhere you walk, it was just like
unbelievable.
Yeah.
So it was pretty crazy stuff. We just stayed out of the line of fire and just laughed.
Yeah,
that's funny. Well, I'm good friends with Night Bob. Night Bob was their touring sound engineer for the golden years of Aerosmith. I don't know if you know Night Bob.
No, not most of the stuff I did. I recorded a live show for them. What was it? I think it was called. I don't know if it was called Riverfest. Maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. So I recorded a show there, but that's the only exposure to anything live that I had was either I would mix something for them that was live, or other than that, it was studio.
Oh man, all these legacy bands. It's like we're not gonna have anything to talk about. It's so sad. Well, anyway, I like when we have guests on the show, and just so you know, we often have, and many times have, the behind the scenes people that made Rush what they are, and it's very important for us to talk about Rush in a way where we do get into the songs and we geek out and nerd out about that stuff, but it's important for us to examine Rush and how they've impacted culture, politics, society, and things like that. We're trying to really broaden the scope of the impact of Rush.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, totally. It's a different spin. However, we've had many production people on the show, including someone at your stature, Stephen Taylor, English recording engineer that worked with Rupert Hine on Presto and Roll the Bones, and
Gotcha.
that was a wonderful episode. And this to me is on the same level. And we've just so you know, we've had other engineers on, and we love
amazing.
Engineers.
Well, that sounds really exciting. So, hit me up.
Totally, man. So going back to who you are, where are you from? I mean, where?
Toronto.
You're from Toronto, and you grew up there. So
I grew up there, traveled around quite a bit, lived in LA for a couple of years in the right around that Aerosmith era. I was living in LA and ended up coming back. The weather was too nice. I thought I need some bad weather, so I thought I'd come back to Toronto. And
you got your wish.
And I got my wish.
Yeah.
So that's
so when you grew up in Toronto as a teenager and you went to school, who were some of your favorite bands? Who did you love?
I was a total Rush. I played in a band. We played tons of Rush.
Did you?
The bass player is like, I have to sing. He was terrible, but he had to sing it because he was the bass player. He bought a tobacco sunburst Rickenbacker because Ged used Ricky's.
Right.
That sort of thing. So it was, that was like the main thing we played was Rush. We played the first concert I went to was Rush.
What year was that? What year was that?
I'm not sure what year it would be. It was Farewell to Kings. It was Farewell to Kings.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And being 29, it's probably, you guys are wondering how I could actually see a concert that old. But
Yes. Yeah. We are also all over 29.
29 and a half.
And many halves. Yes.
Yeah, so I saw Rush do Farewell to Kings at the CNE Stadium, which is a football stadium.
Yeah,
and Max Webster was opening.
Wow, that was that stadium held the famous many famous festivals. The Festival Express came through there back in the day, and I believe the Toronto Rock and Roll Revival Festival, the John Lennon famous
Uh-huh.
Yoko Ono. Yes, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So you're playing music and you are a musician. I'm going to lead into your metal band. I mean, we're metalheads on this show, so you know,
Good.
you're yeah, totally. And it was
Good. Kill all the keyboard players. Yeah.
One of us. One of us.
but your main instrument was guitar in the early
Yes, sir.
right?
Yeah.
Totally. So as far as metal was concerned, because we're going to get into Winter Rose in a minute, who were some of your inspirations within the metal scene?
Well, it was a lot of, I mean, my guitar playing days, was obviously more legacy bands like Priest, Maiden, all of that sort of,
Yeah.
on the progressive side, not metal, but I mean, it was very strange because I would listen to stuff that was very chat, 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 chat. And then at the same time, I would listen to, Yes, that sort of thing. And of course, Rush, and which, I mean, they're not metal bands by any means of the imagination, but at the same time, it's one of those things that are that you get thrown into the idea that you can do stuff that's complex,
Right.
that's complex, and you can still have a great song with complexity as opposed to
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, cool. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm right with you, because I was as a teenager and as a bass player, I loved the progressive, the power metal, the progressive metal. I love Fate's Warning, and
Oh, great.
I love them so much. And then, of course, Rush was always in the backdrop. But when I was younger, listening to Rush, they were in another phase of their style of music. But still, you could recognize the power of their playing, their musicianship, the level of lyrical writing, the lyrics, and all that. It was all right there. But not a progressive metal band. They, by far, maybe not even a progressive band in the sense of the early stuff, the 2112 stuff by the 80s, right?
Yeah, right. But I mean, when we look at music now, things that are that we listen to from the older era wasn't considered heavy, but at the time it was really heavy. Like Black Sabbath was off the charts heavy. The first time I brought home an album, a Rush album, I put on Temples of Syrinx. And my mom's like, turn that down. That sounds like a witch.
A witch.
Wow.
That's awesome, man.
Because that stratospheric level. And I mean, I remember putting that on, thinking of how heavy it is, especially that first drum fill that Neil does, that feel that's just the big wraparound, and that's stuff that was new, it was fresh.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, who does that?
And we want our music to piss off mothers.
Well, I didn't come in doing that, but then after a while I thought, well,
it's working.
It's working. Plus, play a bit of guitar, amps loud,
Yep.
Well, you never want your mom to come in your teenage room and say, "Ooh, that sounds delightful. What is that?"
Delightful.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes, I'm listening to delightful music, so my friends can
Play that again. Yeah.
Next. Unbelievable. Well, you were in a band with James Labrie from the singer of Dream Theater, another incredible band, and Winter Rose was your band. I was listening to Winter Rose again. I was familiar with Winter Rose, just from my common knowledge, and it led me on to, it created a wormhole for me, because after I listened to you only had one album, and it was mostly all demos, that album, right?
That is demos. We that record is funny. That was Winter Rose was kind of when we were me and James were in our White Snake-ish phase, where lots of noodly guitar and that sort of.
We're talking 87, 89. Is this the
88? We recorded the first track in May 1st, 1988. I think was the first track that we recorded. So we had, we were in a very typical situation. We're a band trying to get a record deal, so we recorded some songs, and it didn't, for whatever reason, the powers that be, we didn't end up getting a record deal. But Labrie went on to Dream Theater, and then he's on tour with Dream Theater, and people were coming up saying, "Hey man, can you sign my album?" And Labrie looks at it, and it's Winter Rose album.
That's funny.
And he's going, what is this?
Yeah.
And this guy says, oh, I own a record company, man. Hey, you've gone gold.
That's
I
amazing.
told Labrie. So, and, you know, he's like, what?
Oh, wow.
So he phones me and he says, listen, you know what, let's release this stuff because other people are just making money on our backs. So that's what Prime said. Well, we don't have an album. It's like, yeah, pulled up the old demos, did a quick mix, shipped it off. So
wow, it's pretty interesting because you know, yeah, right. Your album. I bet you if Winter Rose positioned that album maybe a few years earlier, you definitely would have got a record deal. No, but you're at the tail end of the sort of glam, and you weren't really glam. I mean, I'll tell
not
you,
really. We had hair, you know.
yeah, beautiful. We all had beautiful hair, didn't we?
Once, yeah.
Oh, I miss it. I miss it.
The beautiful hair,
But
blowing
really,
in the wind.
Once it got to be like the late 80s though and early 90s, it didn't matter if you were glam or not. You just got shoved into that, and it's like, okay, everyone
100%.
step to the left.
Yeah.
Okay, and goodbye. We will never talk to you again.
But I noticed with Winter Rose, there were some progressive elements in that band. I mean, there were, when I was listening to you, there was some pattern changes and complex compositions embedded within the songs. It was, you know, bands would do that and no one would really notice just because the high pitched voice and the typical melodic positioning of the song or wherever it was. But you guys actually had some progressive elements in your
Well, thanks. Yeah, it was you know, it was a good time to it was a good time. I think, you know, this overall for us to get a record deal, just it took a little bit longer. If we had got a record deal, you know, right at the beginning when the band had moved, you know, we probably would have morphed ourselves, you know, like every other band does, you know, and added some more progressive elements and changed things. I mean, you look at Rush from the White Album, the first album, to you know, Moving Pictures, say, or any massive changes.
Huge changes. Yeah. Well, also, and we'll move on to Rush in a moment, but James moves on to Dream Theater, and they're sort of like an anomaly, right? They're in this, it's a progressive metal band at a time where grunge is now dominating. How do you fit into that? And they stood the test for time. I mean, good for them, right?
Yeah. Well, it was they were an exceptional talent, and you know, right place at the right time. I think they're on Metal Blade Records. For the first record, I think they were in Metal Blade and then swapped over to Atco, I think.
Yeah.
So new record, new label, you know, and label's going to do something about it. I mean, all the guys in the band were exceptional players.
Yeah.
Still are, but they were, you know, that particular team, they were exceptional.
So you come out of James goes this way, you go this way. How do you get into engineering? And were you always an engineer? Were you as a gearhead? Did you envision yourself with this sort of future?
You know, great question. Funny thing is my engineering career was 100% out of ignorance. 100%. So when I was starting to play guitar, and I was, you know, I was 14 years old, right? And I was like, okay, well, gotta learn my C chords, gotta learn this, gotta learn that. Well, I guess I gotta learn how to record as well. I just thought that's what you did. You know, there were no schools, and no, you know, I was too young to go to like a music related school anyway. So I just learned how to record with, you know, went to, you know, you couldn't get 4-tracks at music stores. So we had to go to a specialty rental place that had a 4-track, and, you know, and learned how to record. I mean, you know, those recordings were really dismal, but it was, you know, it's the concept of, you know, taking the console, learning about headroom, and learning to get a project to the finish line. And I was doing that all along. And when I was demoing the songs, you know, before Winter Rose, I was demoing songs, and I was, you know, I would get a drummer to come in and record all my guitars. And then when we were doing the Winter Rose stuff, you know, I was sitting in the studio, and we had an engineer, right? We had an engineer, and I'm watching this, and I'm going, well, I want my guitar to sound like this. And I would play him something, and he'd say, how'd you do that? And I went, That's
You're
probably not a
fired.
good- that's not a good thing for you to be asking me. I'm supposed to be asking you
Yeah.
that, right? So really, I started to, I was using engineering that when I was doing all these demos, bands would, and I'll try to keep the pace up. I'm sorry, I
Sure.
have a
No,
tendency
not at all,
to
man.
meander a little. So I was, when I would be recording, I would have the the door open to the studio, and other bands were going by, and they would poke their head in, and we'd chat for a few minutes, and it was a very sort of a grassroots thing where they would come and say, "Hey, do you want to record our band? Do you want to record it?" Yeah, sure. And I was making money, trying to get a record deal, and then make money recording, bands around, and the bands would send demos out to record companies, and and word was getting out that I was doing this. And when we had when we were sending stuff out for Winter Rose, I would get calls that are like, they would say, "Well, we don't want to sign your band." So I'd be all bummed out, and they said, "But I got to ask you, where'd you record this?" Right? And I said, "Well, I recorded it, and I recorded it, at this place or this place." And I went, "Well, we have a band." And these were bands like Tragically Hip, like Kim Mitchell, all these, but they were up and coming bands at the time, right? And they said, "Do you want to work with this band? You want to work with this band?" "Sure, absolutely." And then those bands started getting bigger and bigger. And Kim Mitchell in particular, I mixed one track for him called Rainbow that was on like a greatest hits thing. And that went to number 2 in Canada for like 6 weeks. Right. So then all of a sudden, you have something that charts. And, I was working with this. Do you know an artist? Do you know Jeff Healey?
Oh,
Yes.
yeah.
Guitar
of
player?
course. Well,
Blind. Yeah.
Right. And I was
incredible.
working with Jeff Healey. And the great thing about the Healey camp is they always wanted to work with marquee producers. And I was the engineer. They said, "Oh, we're going to get some other guys in to produce." It's like, great. I want to meet more people anyway. Perfect. And when I ended up working with this guy, Marty Fredrickson, who was this kick-ass songwriter, multi-instrumentalist, and he was going to produce a few tracks. And he was from LA, and we had a
He
great
wrote for
time.
Aerosmith. He's written some
Yes,
stuff for Aerosmith.
exactly. Yes, so you're familiar with him. Great. And he we had a great time working together. He loved the idea that I was into computers and the way I did things. And he's like, "Hey man, we're gonna work together one day." And it's like, "Great, man. Well, call me. I'm around anytime." And then there was this void of nothingness for, never called. And I went, And one day he called me and just said, "Hey man, you want to come record some drums? I love the way you do drums, man. You want to come and record?" I went, "Yeah, sure. No problem." And he says, "Okay, well, can you come down Friday to Boston?" And it's like, "Yeah, sure, no problem." "Who's the band?" "It's Aerosmith, man." So that was the line. That was the line in the sand for me. That's
Wow.
everything after that, because that record sold, a few million records.
Wow.
And
What song? It was Jaded?
Jaded. Yeah, that one. That record right there.
Wow.
So
Okay.
that ended up doing, I think, set on number 1 at rock radio, 2 on Billboard, so, and that was like, that's the dividing line. So from then on in, it was like, I was
You're at
basically
another level. You're at another level.
engineer. It's kind of engineer. "Oh, you play guitar as well?" When before it was the other way around, but that was the transition.
Did you give up the guitar at that point? You're like,
No,
see you later.
what? I didn't give it up. I just ended up like I play on tracks for if I'm working with an artist and I feel that there's something in there, I'll say I'm going to blow down a piece of something. I mean, I don't practice like I used to. I wish I did, but with family and the amount of time of doing other things, it's pretty tight to, especially if you're mixing a record, man. After 14 hours, anybody plays anything around me, it's like, "No, man, stop."
It's funny. So before you hit the marquee producer situation, are you producing on your own? Are you doing this dual role for albums, or you?
Well, I wear a couple of different hats depending on what the project is, right? That if I get asked to produce, like I will produce, record, mix, and contribute songwriting and guitar playing. Like I'll do all that stuff in a particular project, and then sometime I get called to just engineer or just engineer and mix. or produce and mix, and maybe I'll have somebody else engineer. So it always it always changes. And I go through these waves of sometime I'll do a lot of engineering and very little mixing, and then it'll flip flop the other way.
So do you have your own studio or?
Yeah.
Oh, you do? Oh, cool.
Yeah, I got a place.
Nice.
I mean, I've had a place set up at at my house for quite a long time. I mean, I used to go to, if an artist, wants to record a record, I'll go to wherever the artist wants to go. And, for mixing, if they want, and depending on who the artist is, if, say for Rush is a good example, like we tracked some stuff down at Blackbird in Nashville, and they went to another place called, I think it was called the Sound Kitchen to mix.
Right.
And
cool. So just up until Rush, right? I mean, what a great and amazing career you've had. So 9 years with Rush, you earned 26 gold and platinum sales awards for North America. 24 of them are surround releases. So how does Rush, congratulations, how does Rush first contact you? Do you know them? You're from Toronto,
Two guys are talking, Rush 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 two guys.
Stay tuned for part 2 of the Two Guys Talking Rush podcast next week.